Good afternoon, everybody. May 31st, 2017. A couple things I want to talk about. First one, real quick. The second one, careful how I talk about it because I know it may piss some people off. Of the female persuasion, but listen carefully what I'm talking about. I tie it into what Jesus taught, what Jesus was all about, and listen carefully. Therefore, you will not take it the wrong way. First thing I want to talk about is spending time with the Lord. As it says in Job, submit to God and be at peace with Him. In this way, prosperity will come to you. And first, with prosperity, not talking make money. Everybody's always quick to think physical world. It's all spiritual prosperity, and you'll be prosperous in your growth, and prosperous in spirit, prosperous in love, and things that matter. But submit to God and be at peace with Him. And submit's an interesting word because it'll correlate with what's the other topics about. I'm going to talk about. But spend time with Him. We're so busy with our mind thinking all the time, and so busy planning our day and focus on what we're going to do, and running from back and forth like a chicken with her head cut off. It was just total chaos. It's like it stops His grace from coming into us. I'd liken it to say if you're constantly pushing stuff out a doorway, there's no time or way for anything to come in. Or it's like our mind spinning constantly and whirling around and planning and doing, and there's like a revolving door in the front of our building, our self, that's constantly spinning around. So it's impossible or extremely difficult for God's grace, Jesus' light, to come through that door. So spend some peaceful time with Him each day to allow that chance for His grace to enter into you and for you to get rid of stuff and have Him lifted from you. So there's that transfer. So He can transform you inside. So it's important to spend that peace and that time with Him and submit to Him. Now may the Lord of peace Himself give you peace at all times and in every way. The Lord be with all of you. 2 Thessalonians 3:16. Again, spend that time with Him. Now that gets me to the submission part. I'll be careful how I say this, because again, I'm not saying it to speak in biblical terms, I'm speaking in reality terms as well. Submissiveness. God intended man to be the dominant one, and the woman to be the submissive one. Now, before everybody goes like, whoa, hold on, but the modern woman and everything, first of all, submissiveness and the submission is not a weakness. Doesn't mean you're a doormat. Doesn't mean you're lesser than the dominant one. The two parts of a half, the yin and the yang. It doesn't mean one's better, one's worse. They're opposites that come together. They're two pieces of a puzzle that come together. Now, Psalm 1 talks about, blessed is the one who does not walk in step with the wicked, or stand in the way that sinners take, or sit in the company of mockers, but whose delight is in the law of the Lord, and who meditates on His law day and night. That person is like a tree planted by streams of water, which yields its fruit in season, and whose leaf does not wither. Whatever they do prospers. So that's a dominant man, a true dominant man, not a domineering bully type person who's false. But a true dominant man as God wants him to be. And then you have Proverbs 31 talks about the female. A wife of noble character who can find? She is worth far more than rubies. Her husband has full confidence in her and lacks nothing of value. She brings him good, not harm, all the days of her life. She selects wool and flax, and works with eager hands. She is like the merchant ships, bringing her food from afar. She gets up while it is still night. She provides food for her family and portions for her female servants. She considers a field and buys it. Out of her earnings she plants a vineyard. She sets about her work vigorously. Her arms are strong for her task. She sees that her trading is profitable, and her lamp does not go out at night. In her hand she holds the distaff and grasps the spindle with her fingers. She opens her arms to the poor and extends her hands to the needy. When it snows, she has no fear for her household, for all of them are clothed in scarlet. She makes coverings for her bed. She is clothed in fine linen and purple. Her husband is respected at the city gate, where he takes his seat among the elders of the land. She makes linen garments and sells them, and supplies the merchants with sashes. She is clothed with strength and dignity. She can laugh the days to come. She speaks with wisdom, and faithful instruction is on her tongue. She watches over the affairs of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. Her children arise and call her blessed, her husband also, and he praises her. Many women do noble things, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Honor her for all that her hands have done, and let her works bring her praise to the city gate. And that's playing the submissive part as God intended it here. And again, don't get all bent out of shape. Oh no. It's not saying you can't like anything, you can't think and see in physical world terms. It's all spiritual. It's a deeper meaning. Where there's nothing weak in any of those words it talks about. Nothing weak. Nothing where does it say, it's all talking about her strength and all she does. And her accomplishments and her duties and the part she plays in the whole relationship. And granted, it's talking about how men and women were back then, but it's all as God intended it. It can correlate to today as well. Doesn't mean a woman has to sit down, stay at home, and take care of the house and not work. No, it's not saying that at all. Again, you got to keep things in perspective and not, don't fly off the handle to what I'm saying or what is being said here. Now, and I had this discussion with a female friend who got it, who strives to be, and I've come across other women too, who strive to be Proverbs 31 woman, which is not weak. It's just talking about submissiveness. They're givers, they're nurturers, they're pleasers, they're very giving, which is submissiveness. Don't think of it in terms of 50 Shades of Grey stuff. That's or how society or culture or media portrays that. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the submissive natural nature of how a woman was created versus the natural dominant nature of how men was created. Again, true dominant means not what everybody thinks it is. This false dominant person. And there can be women too that are really just domineering abusers, bulliers, controllers, which is not a true dominant person. That's just somebody that's really a bully is just a frightened little child inside. They're not true dominant. True dominant person is someone who protects, cherishes, builds up, mentors, guides, teaches, leads. Well, the submissive person is a giver, pleaser, nurturer. Still a strength. It's a strength because she's giving this. And sometimes the male with the female is giving this gift of her strength and trusting it to this person, which takes a lot of courage, a lot of strength, and a lot of trust. Giving it to them, entrusting it to them. And that's what that's talking about. Let me share some of the conversation we had. Let's scroll up to it here. I won't say it verbatim. She's talking about how she's striving to be Proverbs 31, and I know I had this conversation because it's something he wanted me to talk about. That's how he pointed out he wanted me to talk about it in the proper way. Now again, listen and take this all in the light that it's intended, not getting all defensive taking it in modern terms or sexist terms, because it's not. If you're taking offense by it, none is given. So if you're taking offense by it, you're bearing false witness against me and trespassing against me, which is what I've talked about before. When you take something as an offense, and we all done it, I've done it, somebody is trespassed against us when they're not even aware that they did something wrong, or was not intended as such, then we're basically trespassed against them and by bearing false witness against them. So we got to be careful of that. Let's see. Okay, true. Technology, hate it. That's its purpose, but it is very frustrating to get it to work right, cooperate with you. Okay, true biblical lady, Psalm 931, which he's trying to emulate. Which we do, that's what we strive to. The male should strive to be this Psalm 1 type man, and the woman is Proverbs 31 type woman. Neither one's weak, both are strong, just different ways. It's two pieces of a puzzle that fit together. The yin and the yang. True biblical lady gives herself completely to her man, devoted to him, her children, giving, loving, nurturing, pleasing, yet independent and strong. And this talks about how she strives toward that goal. That's her ideal. It says, yes, and what it is submissiveness. True biblical women were submissive, not weak, but that's not what it is. Not a doormat, not 50 Shades, though that's a form of submissiveness, which includes nurturing, caring, giving of self, and is a very wide spectrum. Sadly, women are left to blindly stumble along, trying to find their place on the spectrum. More sadly, being naturally drawn, because like magnets, being naturally drawn to a dominant man, which is biblical too, but they get drawn to a false dominant man. In other words, a domineering, controlling, abusive user, demeanor, neglector, mistreater. That's not a true dominant person. Ideally, she finds a true dominant man to guide her, help her to attain, and find her place on that spectrum, which is a wide spectrum. Who accepts her gift, and that spectrum can be totally not submissive. I mean, it may think about it occasionally, and it could just be something like you work all day, come home, you just want somebody else to make the decisions. You're submitting yourself all the way to the opposite end, which is slavery, whether it's voluntary or involuntary, forced, and all that space in between. So it's the spectrum of submissiveness. Ideally, she finds true dominant man to guide her, help her to attain, find her place on the spectrum, who accepts her gift of self and cherishes it, protects it, helps it to grow, thus making the two puzzle pieces one. In other words, yin yang. And it's telling her, I strive to be like Jesus. We all should strive to be like Jesus, the preeminent dominant man. But not just that. He's unassuming. He's dominant, but he's unassuming, humble in his dominance, a selfless teacher, a guide, a helper, Psalm 1 man, which she pointed out. And says, yes. Notice, dominant man, submissive woman. This is important to notice here. Dominant man talks Psalm 1. Submissive woman is talked about in Proverbs 31. Psalms comes before Proverbs, right before it. It's followed by it. Proverbs followed by Psalms. And that doesn't mean woman follows the man. Don't jump to conclusions here. But Psalm talks about dominant man in Psalm number 1, the beginning, the Alpha. Proverbs 31 is the last Proverbs, and that's the last part of that Proverbs, the end, the Omega. What did Jesus say? I'm the Alpha and the Omega. He is both. He is Alpha dominant and Omega submissive in his humility. So he was both. He embodied both. Psalm 1 man and Proverbs 34 woman. He embodied both elements in it. He is the ideal man and woman all in one, which is, she points out, the perfect combination in marriage, which is what he talks about. Together, two parts make a whole. As he said, he spoke about the bridegroom and the bride, and they are welcome to the bridal feast. to become the union of man and woman. It's like the bridal feast where our spirit bride comes together with the bridegroom, God, in the bridal feast. We're all welcome and invited to that feast. All are welcome to be the true communion. All are welcome to be the true communion of dominant, submissive, male, female, Alpha, Omega. We're all invited. Jesus invited us all to that bridal feast to become all part of that joining together of dominant, submissive, male and female, Alpha, Omega. Psalm 1, beginning, the end. Proverbs 31 says, I am the Alpha and the Omega. That's a deeper meaning of something. Another example of a deeper meaning, spiritual meaning of what something he said. Said, and I pointed this out to many people over the years, women, but too many women get drawn naturally. If they're naturally like that, if they're strong in that submissive or spiritual aspect, then they get drawn to a dominant person. But like I said, they can get easily drawn. I've come across so many examples of where they were drawn to a false dominant person, dominant man, and they suffered dearly for it. Suffered for it. And you see women still out there being suffered for it. Why can't they leave abusive husbands? Because they're submissive in their true self, in their true being, and drawn to the dominant male, but they don't realize that he's false. Because a true woman would not be beaten up on her, not be abusing her, not be mistreating her, but they were drawn to that. Sometimes they're drawn to that by physical appearances or the money or the lifestyle they can provide for them, the security they provide for them, and they just look how hard it is for them to break free of it. And some sadly end up, leaving this world because of it. I've sent some souls to light that was a result of that. So it's very difficult, because it's a natural attraction for them, but they don't see the red flags soon enough that, hey, this is a false dominant person. So too many get drawn to false dominant men, which in other words is a devil-controlled being. If they're of God, they're not going to be abusive. A true dominant is not abusive. That's devil controlling them, keeping someone who's naturally submissive, as he speaks about in Proverbs 31, therefore of God. The devil's controlling them, keeping them from being who they're supposed to be, who they're meant to be and naturally to be. But the women don't see that, so they suffer. Why? Because they are focused on physical appearances, how that person looks. Is their idea of what a dominant is. Or material things and what they can provide for them, the security or so forth. A true dominant male, Psalm 1, is unrecognizable by sight. Look at how humble Jesus was. The whole problem is exacerbated by the media images of Hollywood and other things. The handsome, rich, powerful, material, domineering bully, who, like any bully, is twisted inside. And I would give credit to the author of that book, who does show that he is twisted, at least in the storyline. But that's another topic. True Psalm 1 dominant man is not that guy. Another reason Proverbs 31 women get drawn in, because so many, and this, again, talk about something kind of not spiritual, is that so many today are drawn in because they're focused on sex or the sexual act at the exclusion of intimacy. So intimacy is another spectrum, wide spectrum, that ties in to the submissive spectrum or the spiritual spectrum. Like submissive, intimacy is a wide spectrum. Say if intimacy, for example, was a spectrum that was a yardstick wide. Now, sex take up a quarter inch on that wide yardstick spectrum. And actual sexual act would take up about a 1/16 of that. Yet everyone zooms in on that quarter or 1/16 inch. Then they wonder why they're unhappy and unfulfilled. So they're left there still unfulfilled after the act, and they don't know why. So they seek to fill it, the rest of that void, with drugs, booze, partying, promiscuity, whatever, and it never works. Intimacy, folks, is anything shared with another person or doing things together. I'm being intimate with everybody right now, sharing all these things, sharing about God and deeper meanings of God. And that's what God talks about here, being intimate, spending time with Him. Be intimate with Him. Be intimate with God. Spend that time with Him. Take time to be intimate with God. Don't just give Him lip service, our Father art in heaven, so forth, okay, and go on about your business. Take time to be intimate with Him. Instead of being on that one little quarter inch or 16th inch of time with God, spend more time on the whole spectrum of intimacy with God. Because everything in this world is a reflection, except for the negative stuff, is a reflection of God. It has a greater, deeper meaning. So this ties into where he said about building a home on good, solid foundation. Not a bad one that gets swept away by storm and the flood. It says build it on a firm foundation. Well, that foundation that he's telling you to build upon is Proverbs 31, woman. She is that foundation the man should be building his his home upon. Proverbs 31, woman, of the physical world, God and spiritual. So we want to strive to be Psalm 1 man and strive to be Proverbs 31 woman, which is, again, is not a weakened woman, is not weak. That's a strength. That's her strength. She physically takes that courage and that strength. Okay, I'm giving this to you. I'm giving you this gift of myself. And that man should take it, cherish it, protect it, mentor it, teach it, help build her up. Help build her up and help her make positive reinforcement, help her to feel good about herself, help her to support and be her cheerleader in things that she attempts to do or wants to do, help her feel comfortable sharing all that is inside her, no matter what it is. And be comfortable sharing it and be comfortable asking or telling you anything. And be comfortable with it. Not to be demeaning, not to be ridiculing, not to be judgmental, but to be supportive of her. And then she in turn supports you, all in a spiritual and loving way. Is it hard? No. Yes. I mean, it's hard. Jesus never said it would be easy. And the devil knows our weaknesses. He's going to come in and trip us up, which I've talked about before. He clutches and grabs at us and tries to set traps for us and tries to lure us away because he's a fisherman of souls. But when we fall short, when we stumble and fall, just pick yourself up, dust yourself off, keep heading back in the right direction you were headed. Don't just sit there and feel sorry for yourself. Don't remain like the women that remain in that situation, bad situation. Just walk away from it. So, and that ties into what I said about discernment, the different types of discernment. That's a situation where you ask for the discernment of darkness in all its forms and its traps and its manipulations. So those type of women, they would have seen the red flags. Those red flags is your guardian angel or your personal spirit guide or angels around you saying, hey, pay attention, it's not good. But they overlook it because they want something so bad or they're so drawn to that style. I mean, again, true dominant man, you wouldn't know him if you looked at him. And there's a lot of true submissive women out there. Some Proverbs 31 women are very strong, very independent, very successful. But deep down in their core, that's the public self. Deep down in the core, they're at the other aspect of submissiveness, which is surrendering of herself, being that giving, pleasing, nurturing. And it's not unusual. There's so many of them that become their professions are teachers or nurses, caregivers, or something like that. It falls right into how they are. So those type are at a place in the spectrum where they're able to, in their public life, their professional life, and home life, be their natural self. If they're right at home, if they're right with the right person, the right true person, true dominant person, Psalm 1 man. If they're not, then there's an imbalance there. Or if they're very non-submissive, very dominant in their job and very strong, then they have to have that balance outside of work. So Psalm 31, Proverbs 31 woman, Psalm 1 man. And again, please don't take it and rush off the accuse me of being sexist or anything like that. It has nothing to do with that. I'm talking something that's natural states of Psalm 1 man, Proverbs 31, how it correlates, how it ties into Jesus, how it ties in to the Bible. And leave it at that. Take it as it's intended. And then a lot of women are fearful, too, to be that way. And keep in mind, but you always got to be true to yourself, first and foremost. Now, fear, remember, is the number one weapon of the devil. So he can put that fear in you. Just like he puts them, once they're stuck in that situation, puts that fear in them that keeps them from leaving. You know, because he has his hooks and his claws into you, you know, and controls you, and that's not what you want. I think that was all I had to say about it. Yeah. So, again, please don't take it the wrong way. Don't try to put words in my mouth or twist what I've said, like so many do in this world nowadays. But keep it in the perspective and frame of mind, frame of reference of the Bible and what we're told and what Jesus was. I mean, think of that. Here he was, the embodiment of Psalm 1 man and Proverbs 31 woman. Now you have the real women liberals, some women out there saying, well, God is female, God is, this or that. Like, it doesn't matter. God is God. I don't care how you want to repaint him or recreate him. He created us. Mankind is constantly wants to turn things around to fit his own perspective. Mankind is very selfish. It's very self-centered. It's all about himself. Everything that was given to us from God, whether it's word or miracles or gifts of this world, we twist it around to make it about us. Mankind's always done that. So you gotta stop doing that. It's about God. It's all about God. Everything we have is about God. People think this is another topic. Just okay, you got all this nice house and this successful career and this and all that and education, yada yada yada. It all belongs to God. Like, or you made this attainment, you made all this money, or successful, whatever. You didn't do that on your own. That's all good. God allows you to have that stuff. God, it all belongs to God. It's on loan to you. You got to give it back. You can't take it with you. It belongs to Him. He got to do with it what He wants. You could have easily been born Down syndrome. You could have easily been born without any arms or legs. You could have easily been born mentally handicapped. You could have easily been born physically handicapped. With health issues, unintelligent. Autistic. Who knows? You can easily be not born. So don't think that anything that you have and you think is because of you. None of it's because of you. Only to the extent that you utilize gifts that He gave you. The gift of your mind, your intelligence, gift of motivation, self-motivation, gift of self, gift of a healthy body. That's gift. And there's other things you should be thanking Him for daily, along with everything else. So, but that's off track what I want to talk about. So that's what I want to talk about. Again, please, one final time, do not, women out there, take things the wrong way, what I've talked about. You're a gift to man. Two pieces of puzzle that naturally fit together, bride and the bridegroom. And what God puts together, let no man take apart. What God puts together. Now that gets into topics of marriage is whatnot, what I spoke about before, that a God marriage and mankind's legal marriage, not the same thing. Not the same thing. Give unto Caesar what is Caesar's, give unto God what is God's. Very few marriages out there are spiritual, God's ordained marriages. I don't care if somebody who represents God says so, they're blowing smoke out their butt. Only God can marry you. Truly marry you. So, that'll fire some more people up for another day. Anyways, thanks for listening. Thanks for your time. God bless. Have a blessed evening. Good night.